Before the world knew the name Jack the Ripper, another man stalked the innocent, one knife wound at a time. He didn't hide behind fog and alleys. He walked in daylight, across open fields, blending into the countryside like any ordinary soul. But Joseph Vacher was not ordinary. He was the kind of broken only childhood trauma can create, the kind of twisted that no prayer could cure. He came from silence, from pain, from a home where love was a stranger and violence was routine. He was not born a killer. He was made. This is not just the story of a murderer. It's the story of how a child, ignored and unloved, became France's most terrifying butcher. A man who smiled while confessing to murders, and may have committed dozens more than we'll ever know. So before you judge him, before you turn away in horror, look deeper. Because behind every monster, there's a boy who was broken first. Joseph Vacher was born in 1869 in a small village named Beaufort, nestled in the quiet hills of southeastern France. To an outsider, it looked like paradise. Open fields, mountain air, the sound of birds. But to Joseph, it was a place of silence, fear, and buried screams. He was the 11th child in a family of 15. His father was a stern, devout Catholic who valued discipline over affection. Love wasn't spoken in the Vacher household. Obedience was. Emotions were seen as weakness. And Joseph, already a sensitive and odd child, had no one to protect him from the storm inside. He was different from the start. While other children played in fields, Joseph sat alone, watching ants crawl or tearing leaves into pieces. He rarely smiled. He hated loud noises. He often talked to himself. Animals avoided him, and he avoided people. At school, he was smart, but strange. Teachers noticed the darkness in his eyes. By the age of 15, Joseph left home and joined a monastery. His parents thought Religion might fix him, but it didn't. Instead, it deepened his obsession with sin, punishment, and purity. The monks called him intense, unstable, even dangerous. He was eventually asked to leave. Then came the heartbreak. In his early 20s, Joseph fell for a young woman. She rejected him. That single rejection shattered him. It wasn't just emotional. It was nuclear. Something inside Joseph cracked wide open. He tried to kill himself with a revolver. The bullet ripped through his skull, but didn't end his life. Instead, it left his face partially paralyzed. His eye drooped. His mouth twisted unnaturally. His mind shifted. After the shooting, Joseph was no longer the same man. He was colder, quieter. He began to wander across the countryside, posing as a laborer, a soldier, a monk, always drifting, always alone. And behind those wandering footsteps, a storm of horror was brewing. Joseph Vacher, the man some would later call the French Ripper, was about to awaken. It started slowly, quietly, in places most of France never even thought about. The first body found was a young shepherd boy. His name was Victor, just 13 years old. He was found in a field outside Lyon, throat slit so deep it nearly severed his head. Locals thought it was a wolf at first. Or maybe a revenge killing. They were wrong. A month later, a girl named Jean vanished while walking home from church. Her body was found 5 days later, mutilated in the woods. The killer had cut her abdomen open, just like Victor. Her face was covered with her own dress. Then another, and another. All poor, all isolated, all stabbed, slashed, or disemboweled. The police couldn't find a pattern. The murders happened in different towns, different departments. Sometimes weeks apart, sometimes just days. France didn't have the technology to track a killer like this. There were no fingerprints, no DNA, no nation with e-alerts. And Vacher knew it. He traveled by foot, posing as a soldier or begging for food. He used different names, told different stories. Sometimes he shaved. Other times, he let his beard grow wild. But one thing always stayed the same: his thirst for control. He targeted the weak. Shepherds, farm girls, servants. People no one would miss. He raped most of them. He killed them brutally. And then, he walked on, like a ghost. The countryside began to panic. Rumors spread about a man with a twisted mouth and a drooping eye. Some said he was cursed. Others said he was the devil himself. And still, no one knew his name. But Joseph Vacher kept walking, kept killing. In his mind, he wasn't doing evil. He was cleansing the world. He believed he was chosen, touched by God, even as he slaughtered the innocent. By the end of 1896, the body count was rising fast. But France had no idea that the man they were hunting had already killed more than 10 times. And he wasn't done yet. For years, Joseph Vacher slipped through the cracks. The police chased shadows. Villagers locked their doors but dared not look outside. But on a cold night in early 1897, his luck finally ran out. It was a small village called Saint-Étienne, where a local farmer's daughter had gone missing. A search party was organized. But what they found shook everyone to the core: a bloody trail leading deep into the forest. Officers tracked the trail to a ragged man leaning against a tree. His clothes were torn. His face was scarred and twisted from the old bullet wound. He had a cane and walked with a limp. The villagers gasped when they saw him. This was the man they whispered about in fear, the man whose name no one dared say. When questioned, Joseph didn't resist. He stared blankly, almost pleased. Then, to everyone's horror, he began confessing, not to one murder, but 11. 11 brutal killings across southern France. His confessions were detailed, chilling. He spoke calmly about stalking his victims, the thrill of the kill, and his twisted beliefs. The police were stunned. They had never met someone so cold, so unrepentant. But the biggest shock? He admitted to many more crimes, possibly dozens, beyond what they could prove. Joseph Vacher, the French Ripper, had finally been caught. The trial that followed gripped the nation. His story, his madness, his crimes. Everyone wanted to understand how a man could become so monstrous. But deep inside, some wondered, was he truly mad or just evil? Joseph Vacher's arrest was just the beginning of a spectacle that gripped all of France. The trial opened in the autumn of 1898, in the city of Lyon. Inside the crowded courtroom, silence fell like a heavy fog as Vacher was led in. His twisted face, a permanent reminder of the bullet wound he had inflicted on himself years earlier, made him look more monster than man. Vacher didn't deny anything. In fact, he seemed almost eager to talk. He confessed openly to 11 murders, each described in gruesome detail. His calm, emotionless recounting sent chills through everyone present. But the trial wasn't just about facts or evidence. It was a battle over his sanity. Was Joseph Vacher insane? Was he a victim of his damaged brain and childhood trauma? Or was he fully responsible for the bloodshed? Doctors testified that Vacher showed signs of madness. His self-inflicted bullet wound had damaged his brain. He heard voices, saw visions, and believed God had chosen him to punish sinners. But the prosecution argued the opposite. They said Vacher was clever, manipulative, and knew exactly what he was doing. His careful hiding and false identities showed a mind working clearly to evade capture. Witnesses told stories of his cruelty and cunning. Villagers, terrified but brave, recounted how Vacher had kidnapped, harmed, and then attacked his victims. The judge, after hours of tense debate, declared Vacher sane enough to stand trial. In the end, the jury was unanimous. Joseph Vacher was guilty, not only of murder but of terrifying a nation. The sentence was death by guillotine, but even as the verdict was read, Vacher smiled, a haunting, twisted smile that seemed to say he was already beyond their judgment. His trial forced France to confront a horrifying truth. Monsters don't always wear masks. Sometimes they walk among us with a crooked smile and a hidden knife. After his sentencing, Joseph Vacher spent his final months in a cold prison cell, far from the villages where his horrors began. He showed little remorse. Instead, he claimed again and again that God had sent him to punish sinners. His mind seemed lost in a dark fog, sometimes confused, sometimes calm. Prison guards whispered about the strange calm that settled over him before the end. On December 31st, 1898, Joseph Vacher walked to the guillotine. The crowd was silent. Some wanted justice. Others, morbid curiosity. No one knew what to feel about a man who had taken so many lives, yet seemed, in death, almost pitiful. As the blade fell, a final chapter closed on France's darkest criminal case of the 19th century. But Vacher's story did not end there. His case sparked debates across France and beyond. Was he truly insane, or just a cold-blooded killer? Did his traumatic childhood shape his madness? And how many victims would remain unknown, forever lost to history? Joseph Vacher became a symbol, a warning about the dangers of ignoring mental illness, childhood abuse, and the limits of justice in a world unprepared for such horrors. Books, articles, and documentaries continue to explore his life and crimes. His story haunts not because it is unique, many killers exist, but because it reminds us how fragile the line is between man and monster. As you watch, think about the victims, the fear they faced, and the lives shattered for it. And ask yourself, how would you recognize a monster in your own neighborhood? At this point, I want to thank you for watching this deep dive into the chilling story of Joseph Vacher, the French Ripper. If you found this video intense and eye-opening, make sure to hit that like button and share it with friends who love true crime and history. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss our next journey into the darkest corners of the past. What case should we cover next? Let us know in the comments below. Your ideas might just inspire our next video. Until then, check out our playlist for more. Stay curious, stay safe, and keep exploring the truth behind history's most haunting crimes.